I'm Dr. Jean-Encourageant, head of the standardization department of the ANS TIC, and I will be indeed telling you a bit about the latest ILNAS publication, which is the new edition of the sectoral standards analysis for the ICT sector in Luxembourg. So, as we all know, ICT is one of the major domains of Luxembourg's economy. There's an extremely vibrant ecosystem of Luxembourg companies. Indeed, there are over 2,900 of these, employing over 20,000 people in the country. And this ecosystem has been and continues to be supported by various initiatives that have been developed over the years, such as Digital Luxembourg, or successive national cybersecurity strategies, the latest of which would be the 4th edition. We have the National Strategic Vision for Artificial Intelligence in Luxembourg. And we also have, say, the Data-Driven Innovation Strategy for the development of a trusted and sustainable economy, among other examples of this support. And this really has contributed to making Luxembourg a real leader for ICT in Europe, and it shows in the results. For instance, we are 3rd in connectivity in the EU's 2020 Digital Economy and Society Index from 2020. We were 13th in ITUT's Global Cybersecurity Index, also for 2020. So, as already explained, one of the tools available to the market for its overall development is technical standardization. Whether this is to apply standards or to participate in shaping future standards that might affect one's business. And this is particularly true in the domain of ICT, which, as we all know, is rapidly evolving, constantly evolving, mixing older topics such as software development and digitally recorded media or coded characters, with more recent smart paradigms like cloud computing, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and even most recently, blockchain technologies. There are also quite a bit of domain-specific ICT considerations, for instance, e-health or connected vehicles, even online education, and so on and so forth. And of course, there are the overarching and particularly crucial domains of information security and cybersecurity, which contribute to digital trust. So technical standardization in all of these fields can really serve as a catalyst to adopt technologies and also to help ensure digital trust, and therefore stakeholders that make their voices heard in technical standards really have the opportunity to enhance their business, to provide better quality to their customers, and to contribute to the bettering of society as a whole. So the questions that remain now are, for instance, how does one go about participating, and to whom should one turn to do so? And perhaps most importantly, which committees are there to choose from, and on what topics? The first two questions we have already received answers to by our first speakers, and I'm here to answer the last with this document. So, the Standards Analysis ICT Sector Luxembourg of 2021 really has the purpose of being a practical tool for market players to quickly identify ICT technical committees that are related to their business activities as a first step towards participating in this important economic process, which should be viewed as an opportunity. The document gathers in a single publication, a single resource, a recap of all the major technical standardization committees related to the ICT sector that the Luxembourg market should be aware of from a participation point of view, namely those committees from the major international SDOs such as, say, ISO or IEC, and European SDOs, CEN, CENELEC, and ETSI. Concretely, the way it's presented is each committee will have an ID card, which gives you information on the topics it covers, that is, its scope. You'll also see information on its size, its organizational structure, and quite interestingly, the degree to which Luxembourg is involved. To make the identification of relevant technical committees as practical as possible, the document first proposes a classification of these committees in order to regroup them according to, say, several domains, several subsectors, which I will detail a bit right now. So first, we have cloud computing, committees related to cloud computing. The main idea behind cloud computing is to deliver IT services in a kind of pay-as-you-go basis. Really enable access to computing resources, hardware, software, applications, as a utility. And in recent years, cloud technologies have really changed the way business processes are addressed and managed. The next set of committees concerns the Internet of Things, the IoT. The IoT refers to kind of business processes and applications of sensed data or sensed information that are generated by any type of connected device, usually through the internet, across the overall ecosystem. We see more and more devices connected nowadays to the internet. Our next committee or set of committees concern artificial intelligence and big data. So AI is not new, but thanks to a recent surge in computing power, it has really taken off lately. And essentially, it is the science and engineering that goes around trying to make computers think almost as humans to solve complex problems. And it has a special relation to big data, which itself involves the systematic treatment of large volumes of data, of information, for the analytical purposes. Typically, big data is used in AI for training purposes, to train the AIs to do what they are supposed to do. Our next category of committees concerns software and programming languages. The topic here essentially covers everything from programming languages themselves and software interfaces to supporting tools and technologies for software engineering in general. Next, we have the committees related to blockchain technologies. Blockchain and distributed ledger technologies, which are very recent, are essentially enhanced distributed databases where participants need to run a more or less constraining consensus mechanism to validate changes collectively, in a way, in particular, to spread trust evenly across mutually distrusting parties. Our next category is a very important one, especially for this event. It is digital trust. This domain really is about gaining enough assurance that an ICT product or process or service is reliable and performs exactly as we expect it to. And so the set of committees will englobe, among other things, the topics of information security and cybersecurity in order to contribute to better protecting our ever more digitized world. Our next category is telecommunications and networks. So telecommunications and networks basically cover the transmission and reception of signals, whether it's by wire or by radio or optical, any kind of electromagnetic radiation, and also the organization and realization of these communication links into networks. Next, we have committees related to governance of information technology. So governance is kind of a system by which IT would be controlled and used within an organization, either presently or in the future. And it's a subset of overall corporate governance, really dedicated to information technology. Then we have committees related to education and training, particularly useful these days. These would be the ICT tools that are geared towards education and training, including for online or distance learning. Next, we have another vertical, electronic health. The use of ICT in the health sector to provide better materials, better equipment, and on the whole, better care to patients, whether in hospital or even remotely. We have a whole series of committees on fintech or financial technologies, the collective set of ICT that enable and support financial activities. In recent years, it has even started taking advantage of newer paradigms, such as the previously mentioned blockchain and artificial intelligence, among others. We then have committees on green ICT and data centers, which are also quite relevant these days. The topic addresses how to really minimize the environmental impact of our ever-growing IT consumption, but also addresses designing new IT that best achieves this goal. Next, we have a whole series of sub-domains related to the Internet of Things. The first is intelligent transport systems. So ITS use available information and interconnectivity to provide safer, more efficient, and more environment-friendly transportation services. You can think, say, connected buses, real-time schedules, and so on and so forth. Then we have smart cities, which arguably englobe intelligent transportation systems. Smart cities are the collective systems of systems that rely on ICT and the information underlying it to typically better the city living or the city dwelling experience. And they will typically rely also on ITS, IoT in general, and others. And then we have smart energy and smart grid committees. So these are, this topic is primarily focused on the use of ICT to better manage the generation, distribution, and metering of energy to consumers, and really provide better services in terms of energy consumption. And finally, we have, as a category, smart manufacturing, which is the idea of creating smart systems that use modern tools, the Internet of Things, sensing, in the manufacturing environment, really to enable next generation industrial tools. And it typically also relies on robotics, the IoT, 3D printing, and others. So, ILNAS have been publishing and updating editions of an ICT sectoral standards analysis for quite some time now, for the last few years. With this edition, note that a change from previous years has been enacted, in that there's a real will to broaden the scope of the document. Indeed, since 2018, the analysis has been usually focused on smart, secure ICT, covering specifically cloud computing, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and blockchain, and related digital trust items. While this time around, it was decided really to cover all ICT sectors relevant to the country, going as wide as possible. So those of you who are interested in smart, secure ICT, don't worry, the committees are there as well, of course, among those that were just listed. You'll also find that certain sections are dedicated to committees of special importance, such as ISO and IEC's Joint Technical Committee JTC1 on Information Technology, and other committees that didn't quite fit the taxonomy, but still belonged in the document out of interest for the market. So the document itself really is structured as follows. It's self-contained in that it first provides context, a recap of Luxembourg's strategy and policy related to technical standardization, and also kind of an overall state of the national ICT market from an economic point of view. Then it will give you some fundamentals on standardization, telling you in particular who the major SDOs are and what their relation is to ILNAS, your national standards body. Following that, you'll also find the concrete list of committees organized thematically, as previously described. You'll also find lists of certain fora and consortia that are relevant to certain subsections of the ICT domain. And finally, you'll find information on opportunities that ILNAS and ANIC have to offer you, the market, in terms of standardization, echoing what was already described by Mr. Hurld earlier. So, to recap what was previously said, this document is meant to be a practical tool for the market. Therefore, we really would like to encourage you to dive into this document, to really look for what's relevant to your activities, your business. Note that this can be related to core business processes or activities, but not just. It can also help you in your internal processes for the application, say, of a management system or of a procurement process in order to select a technology or a product. We're also quite keen on getting your opinion on the document. So there will be a possibility to fill out a satisfaction survey covering the scope, the length, the organization, also welcoming open comments, thereby helping us with future editions, aiming to make it even more practical and useful for you. So I'll end now by stating simply that standards and standardization, they really have a lot to offer you, especially for ICT. And at ILNAS and ANIC, we will welcome you with open arms to help you out on your standardization journey. Thank you very much.